Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to Honest About the Irish, brought to you by yours truly, B-Man is Mad. So Notre Dame improves to 5-1 this past Saturday by beating Virginia Tech. Their technically second road game of the year. The game in Soldier Field is not considered a road game. They say it's a neutral site. It was supposed to be like a semi-home game for Notre Dame, but let's say second official Notre Dame road game as they beat Virginia Tech by the final score of 32-29. Typical Notre Dame fashion in 2021, nail biter close. Virginia Tech had so many opportunities to blow this game open and beat Notre Dame easily. Notre Dame was once down by 2 scores, 10-0 early there in the first quarter. Midway into midway first quarter into the second quarter, they were down 10-0, and it did not look good. But Notre Dame was able to take a deep breath, get their act together. Jack Cohen was replaced by Tyler Buchner. We will get into that about Jack Cohen. And Tyler Buchner had a beautiful pass for 36 yards to Austin Kevin Jr. and set up a 4-yard goal line touchdown run by Tyler Buchner, which cut it to 10-7. And then Notre Dame took the lead 10-7. And Notre Dame took the lead when Virginia Tech went 3 and out in their drive stalled, the ensuing drive, and Notre Dame took the lead 14-10. Virginia Tech went into halftime with a field goal, which cut it to 14-13 at halftime. But once we get into the third and fourth quarter, I want to give my opinion about what Brian Kelly is doing with this team, why he decided to go with Jack Cohen over Tyler Buchner, or even over Drew Pine, which I don't understand. And I get why you pick Jack Cohen. He's had the most experience. He played at Wisconsin. He's been the starting quarterback since day one in the 2021 season. I get it. But here's the thing. When you want to win a game, when you want to improve, you want to win as much game as you can. You want to win every game. And you deal with what you have. Okay, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to be perfect, and you work with what you have. Brian Kelly did not put his best player out there. He thought was the most suitable player, which is the difference, to start that game against Virginia Tech. I wouldn't necessarily say better player than Jack Cohen is better than Tyler Buchner, or Jack Cohen is better than Drew Pine. Drew Pine and Tyler Buchner are better in this system that Notre Dame has here in 2021 than Jack Cohen is shown. Much better. Because Jack Cohen does not move in the pocket like Tyler Buchner and Drew Pine does. He has concrete feet. He sits back and gets sacked. Yes, and I said this all year so far in the first 6 games. A lot of it has to do with the poor offensive line, but Jack Cohen looks nervous back there. He has deer in the headlights and gets sacked. He has concrete feet. He doesn't move around like Tyler Buchner. He doesn't move around like Drew Pine. Okay, so after the Cincinnati game, the first loss of the season, I was certain that Brian Kelly would either go with Tyler Buchner or Drew Pine. But what does Brian Kelly do? He goes with Jack Cohen. He doesn't go with the best position or the best positional player for that system, or the best opportunity. He goes with what he felt was comfortable, which I don't understand sometimes why Brian Kelly makes these decisions. Okay, that's why he runs Notre Dame's football team, and I don't. He knows something that I don't, and that says he knows football 99.9% more than I do. Okay, probably even more than that, probably 100%. And this is just me, some jerk in his basement, giving your opinion. But when I saw Jack Cohen as a starting quarterback, I was like, what the F is going on here? This is what Brian Kelly does, okay? Since Brian Kelly has been at Notre Dame, and you can say what you want about Ian Book. Ian Book had a great year last year, okay? Brian Kelly has not really developed a quarterback since he's been here at Notre Dame. He hasn't developed a star quarterback. He hasn't taken a quarterback from the ground and built it up. And you clearly see this in 2021 that I think Brian Kelly has a little bit of an issue communicating with quarterbacks. Not necessarily like talking like, hey, how are you? This is the next play. But getting a game plan into a quarterback, building a quarterback, I should say. I think Brian Kelly is poor at building a good quarterback. Now, Notre Dame has not had a great quarterback since Rick Meyer. My favorite quarterback all time at Notre Dame was Kevin McDougal in 1993. My ultimate favorite Notre Dame quarterback. That guy was special in 1993, and I don't want to get into that. That's for another show. But Rick Meyer to Ron Paulus, these are all quarterbacks that, Tony Rice, that Lou Holtz had, and he was able to develop them. Now, they didn't go to the next level and do very well, but in college, Lou Holtz was able to build a quarterback, build something up. Now, some of these quarterbacks like Rick Meyer and Ron Paulus were heavily recruited, and they were, picked to. Actually, Ron Paulus was actually picked by a few experts to win two Heisman trophies. But look where that got Notre Dame. It never happened. But still, they had some national presence. Since Brian Kelly has been there, he has not had that kind of quarterback. And now you can say what it is. Is it recruiting? A lot of the star quarterbacks don't want to go to Notre Dame. Do they want to go to Ohio State? Do they want to go to Alabama? Do they want to go to Georgia? Do they want to go to Texas, or they want to go to Oklahoma, etc.? I mean, it could be that, or it could just be the academic levels. But for some reason, since Brian Kelly has been here, Notre Dame has not had a star quarterback, a quarterback that was a Heisman hopeful. Brady Quinn was a great college quarterback, but of course that was under Charlie Weiss's years. Notre Dame has had a quarterback since, I should say, I said Rick Meyer, but let's say Brady Quinn. If Notre Dame had a Brady Quinn caliber, Rick Meyer caliber quarterback with a better offensive line, I think this team would be much better. But that's ifs. We don't do ifs here. We just go with realism and reality. But that's been troublesome. Is that even a word? To me, I make it up. So, troubling, I should say. It's very troubling that Brian Kelly has not developed a star quarterback at Notre Dame when Lou Holtz had at least 3 or 4 of them. I considered Kevin McDougal a star quarterback in 1993. That's just my crazy opinion. But that's problematic with Brian Kelly. That's been an issue. And I do not understand why he chose Jack Cohen. And I mean, I know why he chose, but I'm still left scratching my head. I really think he should have went with Drew Pine. But now you've got a 3 quarterback system, and of course they're in the third quarter, going into the fourth. Tyler Buchner got hurt. Notre Dame was down. He threw a couple interceptions. His last interception before he got hurt, he got hit pretty well. Limped off the field, didn't come back in the game. And what does he do? He puts in Jack Cohen. Jack Cohen goes down the field, scores a touchdown for Notre Dame. Notre Dame takes the 2-point conversion, makes it, and they're tied going into the late in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame gets the ball back. Virginia Tech went 3 and out, a couple stall drives. Notre Dame goes down, calls a timeout, kicks a field goal with a few seconds left. Notre Dame wins the game 32-29. Now, there was something that really was interesting for me, something that was, left me thinking, I think Virginia Tech went away from pressuring the quarterback the way they were pressuring Jack Cohen there in the first half before he was taken out and replaced by Tyler Buchner. They went away with that in the second half. They really didn't make adjustments only on offense. They ran the ball more. Now they got a pretty good athletic quarterback there who's very good in the pocket, who can escape. And he exposed Notre Dame's defense a little bit with speed. Notre Dame still has a little trouble stopping the fast speed even against Virginia Tech. But for some reason, Virginia Tech stopped putting pressure on the quarterback. When Notre Dame went down the field and tied the game at 29 after the 2-point conversion late there, it was like a cover to prevent defense. bend but don't break. Get to the very, very inch close as you can to the goal line without giving up a touchdown, but they did. That's what they did. And they went away with the rush. They went away with the blitz. Stuffing the pocket, stuffing the box, stuffing the line, and causing Notre Dame fits, sacks. Because Jack Cohen was sacked a few times. Even Tyler Buchner was sacked a few times as well, up until he got hurt and then replaced with Jack Cohen. But for some reason, Virginia Tech was sporadic with it in the second half and didn't stick with it. And I think if Virginia Tech would have made some adjustments on defense, they would have won this game. Virginia Tech could have easily have won this game because, again, Notre Dame looked lethargic on offense. Again, Notre Dame looked sloppy on offense, and at times Virginia Tech looked like the better team. And that's just the way the 2021 Notre Dame season is going to be. Other teams are going to look better than Notre Dame, but Notre Dame could squeak by them. They still got to go on the road against Stanford. They still got to go on the road against Virginia. I'm pretty sure one of those games will be a night game with a hostile crowd. Every game this year for Notre Dame is going to be close contested, even against Navy. It's going to be one of those years where Notre Dame, if they lose to Navy, it'll be by a couple points. If they beat Navy, it'll be by a couple points, because I can't sit here and give you a guaranteed win. That's the kind of year it is. And every game this year is going to be a roller coaster. Of course, this weekend they have a bye weekend, so, they can't lose that game or win that game, of course. But the 23rd, a week from this Saturday, they have the primetime game on NBC at 6:30 Eastern, or excuse me, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern against Southern Cal. The Trojans of Southern California, as Keith Jackson would say. And yes, USC has been bad this year. They had some terrible games, and they don't have a head coach. They have a fill-in, but they fired their head coach after the second game of the year, after the Stanford game. But with Notre Dame, you do not know. Notre Dame will play close with with USC, and USC will play with Notre Dame as well. It'll be a close game. It's not going to be a blowout. If it is a blowout, I hate to say that Notre Dame could be the team that gets blown out, because it's just been that kind of year. It's ugly, and it's a winning ugly team this year for Notre Dame, and that's unfortunate. But that's what we have to deal with, us fans. Not we. Like, I'm not part of Notre Dame because I hate saying that, as you know. So hopefully the team settles down, they get healthy, because Notre Dame has a few injuries. Michael Mayer was not in this game this past Saturday, Virginia Tech. He was hurt since the Cincinnati game. So that was a big loss for Notre Dame. He's a big presence. He's a playmaker. But Kevin Austin Jr. filled in and did some great catches and had couple great catches there that set up a couple touchdowns, especially that goal line stance by Notre Dame with the 4-yard run by Tyler Buchner. That was set up by a 36-yard pass to Kevin Jr. or Austin Jr. So some injuries for Notre Dame. Of course, Tyler Buchner left the game with a leg injury, and then of course, like I just had mentioned, Michael Mayer. So it's been an ugly season, but hopefully Notre Dame can get some rest here this weekend, get healthy, and then of course next weekend, a week from this Saturday, the 23rd, they'll be fully rested and fresh against USC, and hopefully they improve to 6-1. But we will have to wait until then, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you leave a comment. Does it concern you as a Notre Dame fan that Brian Kelly has not really developed a star quarterback? Or maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe Notre Dame is not capable of recruiting that kind of quarterback because they go to different schools that I had mentioned, because of academic levels and because of the location of South Bend, etc. So leave your opinion down below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you're new. We'll talk to you later on in a couple weeks here on the 23rd after the Notre Dame USC game. Hopefully a victory, and hopefully Notre Dame will be 6-1. But like I said, you don't know. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good weekend, and as always, go Irish.